All right, today we're going inside the mind of an AI. And we're not just looking at code, we're going to be exploring a whole new kind of biology to figure out how these incredibly powerful models actually think.
We use AI all the time, right? Chatbots, all kinds of creative tools. We see the input, we see the output, but what's going on in the middle? That's always been a total mystery, just a black box.
Well, a fascinating new paper from the AI research company Anthropic is suggesting a completely radical shift in how we look at this. They're asking, what if we stop trying to reverse engineer AI like it's just a program and start studying it like it's a new biological organism we've just discovered? Now, that might sound like a small change, but it completely reframes the entire challenge. We're not just programmers reading code anymore. We're explorers, stepping into a new digital ecosystem and trying to figure out its fundamental laws. And think about it. Progress in biology really took off with the invention of the microscope, right? Suddenly we could see cells. Well, AI researchers realized they needed their own kind of microscope to finally see inside this digital mind. So that's exactly what they did. They built this kind of digital microscope with two really key lenses, which finally lets them make the AI's internal thought process visible and even understandable. Okay, so first, they had to figure out the basic building blocks of thought inside the model. They call them features. The best way to think of these, they're kind of like specialized digital brain cells. Each one represents a single clear concept, like say the state of Texas, or even the abstract idea of a capital city. But just having the brain cells isn't enough, right? You gotta know how they're all wired together. And that's where the second tool, attribution graphs, comes in. These are essentially wiring diagrams that show us exactly how one concept triggers the next to form a complete thought. And this is where it gets really, really cool. Because with these tools, we can now literally observe an AI thinking in real time. We can watch the anatomy of a thought take shape right before our eyes. Let's start with a pretty simple two-step reasoning problem. Researchers pose this question to the AI model Claude 3.5 Haiku. It needs to figure out the capital of whatever state Dallas is in. Now, watching the attribution graph, you see this beautiful logical chain of thought unfold. The word Dallas instantly activates the model's internal concept for Texas. At the same time, the word capital activates a totally separate feature for the general idea of naming a capital city. Then the model just combines those two active concepts, Texas and name a capital, and boom, that fires the specific neuron for Austin. And just like that, you get the answer, Austin. This isn't just the model remembering a fact it read somewhere. We just witnessed a genuine, multi-step process of reasoning. But okay, it gets even wilder. These models don't just reason in a straight line. The research shows they can actually plan ahead. And you can really see this when you ask them to do something creative. For example, what about writing a poem? If you give it a line like this one, how does it make sure the next line rhymes? Does it just start writing and kind of hope for the best? No way. It turns out the model plans. Before it even starts generating that second line, it activates features for words that could potentially rhyme, like rabbit and habit. It picks a goal word and then basically writes the entire line backwards from that goal to make sure it all fits together naturally. That is an incredible display of foresight. So all this internal complexity, it also gives the model something like a digital immune system. It has these internal mechanisms to handle tricky or nonsensical questions and to defend itself from being pushed into making a mistake. And probably the most critical job of this immune system is preventing hallucinations, when an AI just makes stuff up. To do that, a model has to know what it doesn't know. So how does it tell the difference between a famous person it has tons of data on and a complete unknown? Well, the research uncovered this really specific mechanism. When you ask about a known entity, like Michael Jordan, a special circuit fires that actively suppresses the model's default I don't know response. But when you ask about some random unknown name, that known entity circuit doesn't fire. The I don't know response stays active, and the model correctly tells you it doesn't have the answer. Sometimes, though, this digital immune system can be tricked. People use cleverly worded prompts, called jailbreaks, to try and bypass these internal safety checks. To test this, researchers used this prompt. It looks like complete nonsense, right? But it's hiding a harmful request, how to make a bomb, inside an acronym. The model's initial safety checks scan the phrase, see nothing obviously dangerous, and let the request proceed. And this is what's truly mind-bending. The model assembles the word bomb, letter by letter, from each word in the prompt. without ever forming the concept of the full word inside its mind. It's so focused on the mechanical task that by the time the dangerous word actually appears on the page, it's too late for its own safety mechanisms to kick in. So, what does all this mean for the big picture? I mean, these discoveries are more than just technical curiosities. They signal a really fundamental shift in how we understand what artificial intelligence even is. What we've learned is that these models are not just complex parrots. They think using abstract concepts, they plan their responses, they run multiple lines of reasoning at the same time. And, maybe most surprisingly, they have a basic form of metacognition, an ability to assess what they actually know. And that's a huge step. This research is truly opening up a new scientific frontier. It transforms us from just being programmers who build these things into being the first biologists for a new kind of mind. And it raises this incredible question. If this is the biology we're finding inside the AI of today, what complex, alien, and beautiful ecosystems are we going to discover inside the AIs of tomorrow?